Communists, that human was no longer selfish. In America today, that human is no longer born male or female. And obesity is not something that affects health. You can be healthy at any size. Really, we voted on it. A formerly serious magazine last year published with a straight face an article called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense." Yes, it does. Because again, we haven't reinvented Homo sapiens since Crystal Pepsi came out. I've spent 3 decades on TV mocking Republicans who said climate change was just a theory, and now I gotta deal with people who say, you know what else is just a theory? Biology.
Bill Maher is still on the offensive against woke culture, slamming it for rejecting reality and living in a fantasy world. Maher, who has never been afraid to criticize his own side, took direct shots at Democrats and the DNC with a blunt and fiery takedown that left their carefully crafted image in ashes. He called out the false narratives, mocked the hypocrisy, and stripped away the self-righteous attitude the woke movement often hides behind. The impact was immediate. Shockwaves rippled through Democratic circles, sparking a backlash they can't simply cancel away. Maher isn't joking around. He's delivering a wake-up call, and he wants everyone to feel it.
Part of today's woke revolution, you need to study the part of revolutions where they spin out of control because the revolutionaries get so drunk on their own purifying elixir, they imagine they can reinvent the very nature of human beings. Communists thought selfishness could be cast out of human nature. Russian revolutionaries spoke of the new Soviet man who wasn't motivated by self-interest, but instead wanted to be part of a collective. No, it turns out he wanted to be on a yacht in a Gucci tracksuit holding a vodka and a prostitute. Not standing in line all day for a potato.
Maher began by targeting what he described as the core sickness of the far left, their obsession with extreme woke policies. He didn't hold back. In his words, the left's biggest mistake is their constant attempt to reinvent what it means to be human, as if biology, common sense, and human nature can just be rewritten with hashtags and policy papers. According to Maher, this endless push to force people into some utopian ideal is why the movement keeps losing credibility. At the end of the day, people are still people. Reality can't be voted away or legislated out of existence. Yet, time and time again, the woke crowd drinks their own Kool-Aid, pushing ideas that collapse under the weight of delusion. The fallout has been a Democratic Party losing trust, all while its policies crumble under their own contradictions. Maher didn't whisper these concerns, he blasted them loudly.
With communism, and with some very recent ideologies here at home, is that they think you can change reality by screaming at it. That you can bend human nature by holding your breath. But that's the difference between reality and your mommy. Lincoln once said that you can repeal all past history, but you still cannot repeal human nature. But he's canceled now, so him.
Maher stressed a simple truth. Humans are far more complex than the far left gives them credit for. Diversity is valuable, but not just the surface-level kind. Real diversity includes our different backgrounds, our bodies, and most importantly, the way we think. That's what makes humanity vibrant. But the woke movement doesn't want diversity of thought. Instead, they demand conformity. Anyone who steps out of their narrow script is shamed, attacked, or dragged through cancel culture. Maher argued this isn't tolerance, it's authoritarianism dressed up as progress. They preach inclusivity but practice exclusion the moment you question their dogma. True diversity, he said, is only possible when people can debate, disagree, and still live together. But the woke movement doesn't want debate. They want submission. And when you don't comply, they don't try to reason with you, they try to erase you.
Today I asked ChatGPT, are there any similarities between today's woke revolution and Chairman Mao's cultural revolution of the 1960s? And it wrote back, how long do you have? Because again, in China, we saw how a revolutionary thought he could do a page-one rewrite of humans. Mao ordered his citizens to throw off the 4 olds. Old thinking, old culture, old customs, and old habits. So, your whole life went in the garbage overnight, no biggie. And those who resisted were attacked by an army of purifiers called the Red Guard, who went around the country putting dunce caps on people. Yeah, who didn't take to being a new kind of mortal being. A lot of pointing and shaming went on. Oh, and about 1 million dead. And the only way to survive was to plead insanity for the crime of being insufficiently radical, then apologize and thank the state for the chance to see what a piece of you are.
Maher then tore into cancel culture, which he called the ultimate weapon of the woke agenda. Instead of solving problems, he said the left's new hobby is policing speech and punishing anyone who makes a misstep. One wrong word, one offhand joke, or even a 10-year-old tweet can turn someone into a villain unworthy of work, a platform, or forgiveness. Maher blasted this as childish and destructive, nothing close to progress. He reminded his audience that societies don't grow by silencing dissent, they grow by challenging ideas. But the woke mob doesn't want challenges. They want control. And if you refuse to bend, they'll come after your reputation, your career, and even your personal life. Maher didn't just point this out, he burned it to the ground.
This story. There's a law professor at the University of Illinois, Chicago, named Jason Kilborn, whose crime was that on one of his exams, he used a hypothetical case where a black female worker sued her employer for race and gender discrimination, alleging that managers had called her 2 slur words, the type of real-world case these students might one day confront. And knowing the extreme sensitivity of today's students, he didn't write the 2 taboo words on the test, just the first letter of each. He was teaching his students how to fight racism in the place where it matters most, the criminal justice system. But because he merely alluded to those words, again in the service of a good cause, he was banned from campus, placed on indefinite leave, and made to wear the dunce cap.
He pointed to the case of Professor Kilburn as a clear example. Kilburn's university didn't just scold him. They dragged him through 8 full weeks of forced sensitivity training and demanded he write 5 essays on self-reflection. And what was his crime? Simply stating a basic fact about the real world. Think about that. A man spoke truth, and the institution treated it as heresy. This is where we are today. A culture so fragile and hypersensitive that even an honest observation can spark a bureaucratic witch hunt. And it doesn't stop in schools. This pressure extends into everyday life, forcing people to walk on eggshells, even at home. Maher warned that the left doesn't just want to police public speech, they want to control private thought. That isn't sensitivity. It's censorship. And it's deeply alarming.
We do have our own Red Guard here, but they do their rampaging on Twitter. Here's a cute example from a couple of years ago. The banjo player from Mumford & Sons tweeted that he liked a book that apparently had not been approved by the revolution. So, of course, he had to delete the tweet, then take time away from the band. Oh my God, you mean this could have affected Mumford & Sons? And then the cringing apology, I have come to better understand the pain caused by the book I endorsed. Pain? From a book? Unless he hit the drummer over the head with it.
Maher also called out the disgraceful treatment of Winston Marshall, a musician from Mumford & Sons. Marshall's crime wasn't political activism or hateful speech, it was simply tweeting support for a book written by journalist Andy No. That's it. He didn't storm a stage, insult anyone, or burn a flag. He tweeted about a book. But the woke mob couldn't tolerate even that small show of independent thought. They came after him viciously, demanding he be punished until he backed down. Under immense pressure, Marshall stepped away from his band and issued a humiliating apology. Maher said this wasn't justice, it was bullying. The left claims to support free expression, but the moment someone strays from their script, they unleash the mob. All Marshall showed was curiosity, and for that, they tried to ruin him.
There was once a very different musician named John Lennon who wrote a song called Revolution. And people who didn't really listen to it thought it was a rah-rah call for revolution. No, it was the opposite. The lyrics are, you say you want a revolution? Well, you know, we all want to change the world. But if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you ain't gonna make it with anybody anyhow. There's a guy who understood how good intentions can turn into the insane arrogance of thinking your revolution is so fucking awesome and your generation is so mind-bendingly improved that you have bequeathed the world with a new kind of human. You're welcome.
And that's the deeper problem, Maher explained. The woke left truly believes they are the most enlightened, morally superior people alive. In their minds, they've evolved beyond everyone else, which supposedly gives them the right to dictate how others should think, act, and live. They set themselves up as the referees of morality, deciding which opinions are allowed, which comedians you can laugh at, which songs are safe, and which books are acceptable. Step outside their rules, and you're instantly branded hateful, ignorant, or worse. Yet, the irony is that most of their high-minded claims collapse under basic common sense. They don't make society freer or smarter. Instead, they make it weaker, more fragile, and completely disconnected from reality.
Communists, that human was no longer selfish. In America today, that human is no longer born male or female. And obesity is not something that affects health. You can be healthy at any size. Really, we voted on it.
Maher compared today's climate to past ideological extremes. Under communism, people were told human nature itself could be erased. In America today, he said, we're told that male and female don't exist, that obesity has no impact on health, and that you can be healthy at any size. The problem? Reality proved otherwise. Obesity is linked to heart disease, diabetes, and strokes. According to the CDC, nearly 300,000 Americans die each year from obesity-related conditions. That's not fat shaming. That's fact. Yet, the woke movement pushed the narrative anyway, silencing doctors, attacking critics, and pretending biology could be changed by hashtags. The tragic outcome was that people who needed real medical advice were handed false comfort, and lives were lost. And when the evidence became undeniable, the woke crowd quickly abandoned the issue and moved on to their next crusade. Maher pointed out the pattern: deny reality, create chaos, then quietly retreat.
Formerly Serious Magazine last year published with a straight face an article called "Separating Sports by Sex Doesn't Make Sense." Yes, it does. Because again, we haven't reinvented Homo sapiens since Crystal Pepsi came out. I've spent 3 decades on TV mocking Republicans who said climate change was just a theory, and now I got to deal with people who say, you know what else is just a theory? Biology.